Dragons. For those of you who are not familiar with this show, I usually have to stop at the beginning and make sure it's actually streaming. It is. There we go. Okay. So, for those of you who are not familiar with Brunches and Dragons, the origins of this are a long and storied past, but today what it is a storytelling sort of experiment. So I run a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, but I don't run it out of the books. I do a lot of homebrew. What used to happen is so I'm autistic, so I'd have to I really wanted to have it all laid out in front of me. So I'd prepare for hours, and then my players would turn left instead of right. I didn't handle that well. So then I spent hours knowing everything about the town, all of the people that lived there, how many children there were, like the whole thing. And that was very time laborious as well. And I noticed that my players would still turn left instead of right, inevitably. And the NPCs they liked the best were the ones I made up on the spot. Well, traditionally, I'm not very good at improv, and so I was like, must get better at this. And I started this show. I started bringing on players that I don't typically play with, which means I get a lot of experience with new players. I always learn something. I love that. I've been turned into an improv GM. I don't always plan out the sessions I run anymore, and I think they work pretty well. But like any skill, you need to practice it. Hence, I'm still running this show. So what we'll do is my guest has created a character that I have not seen until actually right now. We haven't discussed the character, nothing. Then what we will do is she's going to share who the character is, and I'll start asking questions, and then somewhere in there we'll figure out the story we want to tell. Might be a mystery, might be a love story, might be vengeance, might be creepy. There might be ghosts. There might be puppies. We don't know yet. But the important thing is we'll do that collaboratively. Actually, one thing I forgot to mention earlier, Sabriel, is I run a lot of games with beginners, and I find that some D&Ders, when you ask them, like, what does your character do, sort of freeze. So a bad habit I've fallen into is instead of being like, what are they going to do, is like, do you think your character would do A or B? Now, please don't feel constrained by A or B. You can be like, they do W. And I'll be like, great. It's just in an effort to give you an idea of what I'm asking for, right? So that helps if somebody doesn't understand the full situation or things by that. I got a new follower with a really amusing name, Tormented by Gnomes. That's delightful. Oh, and Tyler's here. Tyler's my favorite. So keep that in mind. It is a bad habit. If it really bugs you, let me know, and I will try to rein it in. So yes, the story is going to be collaborative. If at some point Sabriel's like, I hate what's happening right now, I want to walk it back, or like, you know what, I want to tweak something, we can do that. We are fully in charge of this story, and I'm very excited to tell it. So with that, that's my intro. If you have questions, toss them in chat, and I will do my best to answer them. Y'all know me as Spoon. Hi, I'm like 7 Spoon. My guest today, Sabriel Maston. We met at PAX East, which I think was last year. Was it last year?
Yeah,
Time
it was.
yeah, it's weird. I think it was the last time I was outside, was at that convention. We were on a
You and me both.
Right, we were on a wonderful panel together, had never met, although I'd been following you on Twitter a little bit. And since then, more Twitter following. And I was really excited that you had the time to do this with me. You posted something about Session Zero document like a week or two ago. And it's something I've been meaning to do forever. And I really liked the format. We started talking and I asked you to do this. And I was just so excited you said yes. And with that, would you mind introducing yourself to stream?
Absolutely. Hi, my name is Sabriel Maston. I am a writer, freelancer. I do social media for the website called Overbuff, an Overwatch statistics website.
Nice.
And I also am a DM. I DM at least 2 games a week usually, one campaign and one more of a series of one-shots.
Oh, nice.
One in the Eberron setting is the campaign, and the one-shots is the Wildmount setting from Matt Mercer.
Ooh, that's gotta be fun.
Well, I found it as a good excuse. I had run a campaign there, and like, this is getting too much for me to run 2 at once. And so I'm like, over the years of being a DM, I have collected a lot of one-shots. Yeah. This is my excuse to take all those and flavor them into the setting.
Yeah.
And I can use that, but also use all the stuff I purchased over the years.
Right. You can get really creative that way too, which I think is fun. Yeah, and you can cycle out you can swap out character or players as well, which can be really fun. I am
Exactly.
not as good at that. I like consistency. If I'm gonna run a one shot with people I don't know really well, it's a very different experience than just running the campaigns. So I'm actually running 3 campaigns.
Oof. That's a lot.
They're all in my world that I've built, and I do a lot of this hand wavy nonsense when I'm running them. So it's it's a little easier than running from a book. So or it can be. Great. Sorry, I interrupted you. What else would you like to share with
Oh,
stream?
no, I think that was a very good start. I just DM a
Great.
lot. I love DMing. I love D&D, making stories with others.
I've noticed that when I do these with DMs, I get a lot more of the collaborative storytelling, which I find really fun. It's wonderful to play with players who have not DM'd either, because sometimes they'll come up with stuff and it's like, oh, I had not thought of that. I think I'm going to learn a lot from you today, Sabriel. Now,
Oh,
everybody stick around to the end of stream, because I'm going to ask Sabriel where you can find her in the weeks to come. If she's doing any special projects or anything fun that she'd like you to come watch. So we'll do that at the end of stream. Does that sound all right? I forgot to warn you about that too.
that is perfect. That is perfect.
We had tech fun this morning and it threw off my spiel. So sorry about that. Okay. All right. I think we are ready for you to introduce us to your character. Would you mind telling us what we're looking at? Who we're looking at?
Absolutely. We are looking today at Shammy, the Paladin.
Okay. I was wondering if that was how it was pronounced. And I was really, really entertained when I thought that was the pronunciation I was going to be getting. So, yay.
I think the one sentence, maybe 2 sentence backstory for that name.
Yeah.
In World of Warcraft, there's paladins and there are shaman.
Mm-hmm.
And people used to call shaman shammies. And clever Sabriel was like, I'm going to name my paladin Shammy. And so
I love that. That's wonderful. I am terrible at naming things. I stream from what I affectionately call my library. So whenever I have to, you'll see me do this today. Like if I have to name anything, I'll be like, yep, and I'll make something up from the titles on these books. Like it's but my last brunch's guest was like, oh, use prescription bottle names, like the prescription names of prescriptions, and I was like, heck, that'll keep me going for days. And they were like, right. So
brilliant.
I'm terrible at names. I'm absolutely terrible at them. I created a new character recently and I had to name her, and I was like, yeah, Varen, that's her name. Oh, by the way, Sabriel, we go off on tangents a bunch on this show. That doesn't bother me, so don't worry about it. You tell me all kinds of stuff.
Nutshell.
Right?
Cool.
Yeah, like
Tell me about my cat now.
tell me all about your cat. If one of my cats lays in the pet bed that is strategically placed under a camera, stream will get to see that cat. I used to have a cat that made a habit of being in that bed whenever we played, but he has unfortunately passed away. So now it's just maybe if we're lucky, Tungsten will show up there. What kind of cat do you have?
I have 2. There is Rita. She is a Siamese. She's very talkative. And I have Minerva, my older girl. She's a sweetheart. Minerva, my older girl. She's a calico, dark cat.
Beautiful.
I have the door closed because Toby will come in here. The dog, roommate, Metamor, Polly, some like Metamor. His dog will come in here. He loves when I turn the microphone on, he races in here because he knows people are going to go, Toby,
right.
And he's going to get pets.
Right.
So
I don't.
Shauna may have seen. Yeah.
I don't think either of my service dogs are in here, so no dogs for us today.
You may have seen before we started streaming. I had to like, Toby, you can't come in here. Sorry, because
right.
I want to.
But I want
it. Like, sorry.
Oh, poor puppy. Sometimes the pups are in a bit of a mood because we never leave the house, so my husband will like corral them or like let them play downstairs. So that's probably what happened this morning. So pets are wonderful. Tell me more about Shammy.
However, yeah, I should tell you more about Shammy. So Shammy is an elf paladin. She is on the older side of middle-aged. Okay. She's seen some stuff.
Okay.
But she is a defender of good and all. As basically a devotion paladin was what she will be eventually. She is Eladrin. Mechanically, it's not going to change much here. She's an elf.
Right.
Beyond that, I thought we would find out more backstory as we play.
That sounds wonderful. My first question is, how long has she been a paladin? Should she come to that late in life, or is that something she's been doing for a very long time?
I pictured a very long time. She's 500 years old now.
Oh my goodness.
So I
Yep.
was picturing at least a couple hundred years. She's been a paladin, perfecting her craft.
So that'll be kind of interesting because she'll have seen the ways, right? Like paladin will mean something different as the ages progress. She may have even been around when to be a paladin was not necessarily a good thing, right? Like the public perception was maybe too, like church is controlling state kind of thing a little bit too much. So she's probably seen a lot of changes in how paladins are perceived, received, and whatnot. Does that sound right?
I've never thought of that as a way for like these long-lived races and ancestries to go.
One of the things I like to do with brunches is create lore for the world I'm running, and so I think a lot about, like, especially with my longer lived characters or players, how that would affect the lore of the world. So somebody brought up a religion at one point, and I was like, all right, that's going to change my games. I can that I'm running currently. I got to work that in. I needed to create a character from very long ago that I'm going to try and get somebody to run one day, create and run it for me, so I can create more backstory an arc in one of my campaigns. So yeah, I think it can help to think about those things because her reactions to somebody who might be a little suspicious, knowing that there was a time in the paladin's history where they weren't as trusted, that might affect their Shammy's reaction. By the way, which pronouns are we using for Shammy?
She, her.
Got it.
If you see me looking down, I'm not looking at my phone. I'm writing my own notes.
Oh, I'm writing notes too. Most of the streams should be used to this. I take copious notes and then I write stories about it later, which go nowhere, so nobody look for them. Yeah, so I think history is a really fun thing to think about, right? Does she have family? Do you know?
I pictured her as a loner. Whether that is because something happened or she never took the time. I hadn't
Right.
discovered that yet.
No, we can work that out. Have you played with this character before, or was Shammy created just for the show?
Shammy, the name I use is a paladin in World of Warcraft, but that would be unrelated to this entirely.
Right, okay.
So I have never played her outside of that context.
Great. I will say that it is possible I will create a very weird magic item today. For all intents and purposes, it's real, right? You can put it on your character sheet. But if you want to play this character in another campaign, please ask your GM if you can use it, because I do not want another GM hunting me down.
Okay.
Catch her stories on Wattpad. I don't know what that is, Tyler.
Wattpad is a fan fiction website.
Oh.
But I have never published anything there. I have published one story to Archive of Our Own.
That's wonderful.
But I have never shared that publicly.
I think the only way I've shared stuff like this is during October, my husband and I do Inktober, where he draws and I write. And I use a lot of inspiration from the stories that I tell in D&D. And I'll post the little snippet on like Instagram and Twitter. I think that's the only way I would have published any of our stories, but cool. Wattpad sounds interesting. I'll have to check it out. Okay, so let's see here. So this is the first time we're using this character. That gives me a lot of wiggle room. I don't mind at all if you jump in and you're like, this is absolutely true. It'll be true. Don't worry about that.
Okay.
Can you tell me what Shammy looks like?
She has long white hair.
Mm-hmm.
She keeps up in a very high. Some of it she keeps in a high ponytail.
Okay.
If you know Fire Lord from Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yes.
So a haircut to that.
Got it. Okay. Great reference.
Otherwise, thank you. Akora is one of my favorites things in the whole world. If you ever saw my arm,
I did. Yes, I do recall that. That is a wonderful story, and I really do like that tattoo. It was well done.
She has one gold and one white eye. I imagine from injury from battle long ago.
Okay. Can she see out of that eye?
I would say no.
Okay. I like that because that would have changed her weapons work. She would have had to recalibrate depth and things like that. I mean, she's definitely had the time, so I think that would be very interesting. Now, if at any point you're like, nope, I wanted to have two working eyes, that's
No,
fine
I think
too.
it's
Don't worry about
cool.
it. Okay, cool.
Okay.
What else?
She has in her gear, her outfit is how could I battle dress?
Okay.
Like is that a word I can if get the
Absolutely.
image in the head?
Yeah. Like
Hands out of colors.
functional female armor. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a totally a battle dress.
Okay.
Uh, now I'm
I
thinking
love
of
that idea.
Hitchhiker's Guide.
You're thinking of what?
The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy with the was it one alien has like the bejeweled battle shorts.
I haven't thought about that in a long time. That's funny. Yeah, definitely. So are we talking like a dress, but it's made out of armor and stuff?
Uh, yes.
Okay.
It's totally like armored. I'm sure I could come up with a picture eventually in my head, but I think it's in whites.
Hmm.
It's in whites, and yeah, let's go from there.
So white is
Maybe
definitely a
gold, the primary.
yeah. Wait, did I hear you say gold as? Did you say gold was the
I was
primary, or gold
thinking
is like
that.
an accent?
I did say I did say white was the primary, but
Okay.
as we're talking like let's just go with that. Gold is the accent.
Gold is the accent. Love it. So that's a very strong image we've got there, right? Like, there's things like purity, sometimes power associated with white, definitely royalty associated with gold. And I think it's interesting that she has the one white and the one gold eye, and that's reflected in her dress as well. I think that's very interesting. Um, it's a very striking character visually. I think I really
Thank you.
I'm starting to see this, and I really that would be interesting walking down the street, just being like, yeah, you should cosplay this. It'd look great.
Right. I mean, in my head, I see like where I'm getting some inspiration from the World of Warcraft version of this character, but I
Yeah,
totally already split into its own thing, which is fun.
that can be fun. Yeah, for sure. All right, well, let's think about a story we could tell with Shammy. And it may just be a piece of a story. Maybe we'll start one out. Maybe we'll say this is everything that happened and we're going to finish it out with this encounter. Or maybe it'll just be the middle. Like, I don't know what this looks like. Let's jump in here. Let's see. So she's a defender of good. Do we want to be closer to the beginning of her career or the end of her career?
I'm closer to the end
Okay.
when she's in her 500-year-old state, so she's
Okay.
seen some things.
Would she be a little jaded, or is she still holding on to that hope that you want to see from a paladin?
I like the jaded.
Jaded, okay.
Still
Um,
believes in her things, but she understands that like maybe over 500 years she has realized some of the tenets she was taught when she was very young uh, are very idealized versions
yes,
of life.
yeah. Um, I've noticed with humanoids that if you live long enough, your big bucket tends to narrow. So what I'm referring to there is she's the um, defender of good, but what's her sweet spot? Like, does she particularly like missions where kids are involved and she gets, she's either teaching kids um, new skills, or she's rescuing them, or is she focused on like women, or is there something she is focused on, or something which would be a little more interesting that she particularly doesn't care about, right?
Yeah, she is a defender of love.
Love. I like that. Okay. So
And
any situation that's going to involve love. So let's say two people are separated, or there's somebody being like hunted because of you can't date my daughter kind of thing. Something along those lines.
I like that. I like that.
Okay.
She'll be with the person. No, I guess that's not a good example. My main went to the stereo holding the thing, but it's not necessarily a good example of the 80s movies. But I think you get the idea. She'll,
Yeah.
she'll uh, defender of actual love, not creepy love.
Right. Yes. Actual love, not
um,
creepy love. Like that.
right.
Um, okay, I think we could do something with that. I'm kind of thinking about challenging the traditional idea of love, and I'm wondering if there can be a community that she either stumbles upon or goes to because she hears of an opportunity for her to be a defender of the good. That's set up in a way that I'm thinking, like, instead of like, let me think about this.
Okay, maybe I can help. Maybe add some seeds here.
Yeah, throw
I
some
am
stuff out.
very gay.
Mm-hmm.
I am very gay.
Very gay.
I get
Yes.
to be a very like my website is like sayreal.gay. It's like very gay.
Yes. That's wonderful.
I don't get to be a player very often.
Okay.
I want to be. Shammy is now a very gay defender of love.
Love it. Now, do we want to go into a situation where the community is says oath of the window boombox. I kind of want to see that now. So do we want to go into a situation where there's a community where men are supposed to pair with women, and there's a couple that is a lady and a lady? Or do we want to go into a situation where the community is more slanted towards lady, or gender neutral lady, and there's like a dude and a lady that want to get together, and they're getting sort of like some pushback on that? What do you think?
I just thought of Romeo and Juliet story.
Yes, that's
two noble families.
Yep.
Two women who want to be together.
Okay.
But
I
they're
like
not
that.
allowed.
Now, why are they not allowed though? Is it because they're both ladies, or because of the nobles fighting?
I think it's the nobles fighting.
I like that
To
idea.
me, that's more interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Two noble families. Now let's think of reasons they would be fighting. We could go the classic. One noble's family's eldest son was killed in a raid of some kind. That's fairly classic. We could go down the road of their merchant noble families, and one family screwed the other family out of a deal. We could go down the road of the eldest son of one family made fun of the father of the other family. We could go down the road of the two, let's say we have matriarchs. Actually, that will be more fun. The two matriarchs of each family, when they were kids, got into a scuffle that no one remembers, but it affects them even into their later years, and it affects all of their children and their children's children. We could go down.
That's a good one because of the age.
Yeah, that would be good. Oh, yeah, because is she going to come down
She
on
was
the side?
there.
Right, she might have been. Yeah, that would be good. She was there. Maybe she's the only one that remembers what that scuffle was about. That would be interesting. Yeah, okay, let's go with that one. Let me write that down.
So maybe like human or some other short-lived compared to elves.
Let's call them humans just for now.
Okay. All right.
Humans. I don't tend to use racial traits and stuff in the game, so I don't really care what they end up being. Matriarch. Humans. Long forgotten childhood feud, but no one will admit that. Feud, but Shammy remembers. And then, do we want the kids that are trying to get together to be matriarch's kids or the matriarch's grandkids? How old do we want to go here?
Let's have them their kids.
Kids.
Like whatever feud this was before like any of their lifetimes.
Got it. Kids want to get together. Mothers refuse. Okay, I like this situation. I think, let's say it's been going on for a while, right? Let's say the kids have been, let's skip past the Romeo and Juliet part where they've been discovered. Let's say we're at the stage where they're still defying their parents and they're finding really creative ways to do it, to defy them. Let's say it's gotten to the point where one of the matriarchs is actually locking up her kid. This is for your own good type of thing. Does that sound all right?
Yeah, like an Elsa thing where you can't leave the castle, you
Right.
can't leave the manor.
Right, like you don't have permission to leave the grounds. That's a better idea. I also like I keep referring to them as kids, but I like the idea that these are young adults, right? Like they're near their maturity or major age or whatever age they become adults. Does that sound all right?
That's what was I was going in my head. Like to
Got
me, I'm almost 40. 18 to
it.
22-year-olds are still kids.
They are kids, yeah. I will not admit how old I am, but it is definitely not in my 20s. So yeah, 18-year-olds definitely feel like kids to me. So let's call them 18 or 19. Um, let's see. How would they have met, do you think? Would it have been a chance
uh,
meeting? Would it have been um,
at the
some peacekeeping type thing where they had to go on a horse ride together or something? Or
it
what do you
was
think?
at a fair or carnival in town. I'm thinking more like fair,
Got it.
celebrating maybe a harvest or a
Yep.
special event. Or
Let's go with.
oh,
Oh,
I
go
got
ahead.
it.
What
It
do you
was a
get?
festival
Yep.
there is a meteor that goes by after,
Love it.
sorry, in the star-crossed lovers. So
Perfect.
we
Yes.
can go with that.
Passing
Almost
meteor
literally.
or shooting star. I really like that. Yeah. That'd be, and it happens like every 50 years or something. That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
I imagine too that these noble families sort of share a town. So like they're on like opposite ends of the town, and the town is just sort of like used to the feuding. So they're used to the idea that they need to have a festival that if it was one day in the past, now it's 2 days, so that each noble family can participate.
There you
And
go.
they're just kind of like more opportunities to sell stuff, I guess. Does that sound all right?
I like it.
Okay. We are getting a little ridiculous here, which I like. Um, I almost wanna play through them meeting, but I want to keep Shammy involved. So let's say that the kids are past the meeting. We'll say it's been a couple years. Let's say they met with when they were a little younger, and now they're adults, and it's not a phase. I really do want to marry somebody or at least date somebody from that family. I'm not gonna grow out of it. I've thought this through. Like we're at that phase. So, do you think Shammy is swinging through town to visit with one of these families? She's actually a friend of one of the matriarchs, maybe, or maybe both, and she does not realize the feud has gotten this out of hand.
Maybe she's been out of town for a while. Like, what? You guys are still fighting about this thing 400 years ago old?
Right, like
uh,
that. I think that would be
no,
fun. No, if they're humans,
no,
it'd have to be like a
yeah, she would know them.
yeah.
Well, she has not been to this town for a few hundred years,
Okay.
and she happens to be coming through during this festival on her lone herself, and catches. Maybe she happened to be there when the wrong person saw these girls together,
Okay.
and then she finds out their name. Like, you two, you're still fighting about this?
She finds out the name of the person who caught
Uh,
them, or the
she finds out the
girls.
name of the girls. Yeah, finds out their surnames, and like, and
So
then she's like,
that's
wow, they're still fighting over this
so
all these years later.
is that the fight that's been causing the noble families to split, or because I was thinking they were fighting before the girls met, and that's why they shouldn't be together.
Yeah, you are spot on.
Okay.
Shammy is just finding out that uh
The feud has reached
finds out their yeah, exactly.
new heights because of the girls. That
Hmm.
okay. Um,
Or yeah, it's a new heights because now, oh shoot, this thing that we've been fighting for has gotten worse. The kids aren't listening to us.
can,
Oh, how
can
horrible.
can Shammy have known like the current matriarch's like great grandmothers, and that was where the
Yes.
feud started? And
Yeah.
can Shammy remember like their great grandmothers both wore the same dress to, one of them's coming out party, and like that is where the feud was born? Can it be
I love
something
it.
silly like that? I really like the idea of
Please.
it being about a dress. I showed up to an event once with somebody in the same dress, and I was like, "We match," and they were like, "I hate you forever," and I was like, "Oh,
Oh. Oh.
cool." I clearly don't understand this social situation. Um, and years later, actually, I still get dirty looks from this human, so it's great. I don't live anywhere near them anymore, which is fine. So that was the original feud. I think Shammy was there, saw it happening. Probably, let's say Shammy did some peacekeeping, right? Like girls, and like did some social maneuvering so that it seemed fine. But then the girls inherited and secretly nursed this anger. And so generations later, nobody remembers what exactly happened, but it was a great insult, right? Because two adults in their 40s who are still feuding are not going to admit it was because of a dress, when they were 16, right? Or whatever their coming out age is. So generations later, there's still the feud. Let's say Shammy shows up when the wrong person discovers the girls, like you said, doesn't recognize the significance because in Shammy's mind, that was over generations ago.
Yeah.
So let's say she's swinging through specifically for this festival because let's say this whole system, the two nobles in the village, are in like a pocket valley in the mountains, and they have a particularly good mountain peak to watch this from. So the festival is actually not in the town; it's actually up on like a mountain peak, and it's the best place to. It's the only place to get this view. So that's one of the reasons this village is one of the only places that do this festival. She loves it. She's missed the last couple times, so she wants to come in for it. Does that sound all right?
I think it's perfect. I love it.
Okay, so she's in town. Let's say she just made it in time. So it's starting to get dark. We're in the gloaming. Before the comet can be viewed. And let's say that you can't do a 2-day festival around the comet, right? Like you can only view the comet going by once every, let's say, 100 years, right? So like everybody has to share the same mountaintop, and that's what forces the girls together. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, no, it's very good.
And then, let's say she's looking for the current matriarchs of these families because she's known these two family lines for so long, and on her way to like where, go ahead.
What if she has a relic from those days, like a brooch or amulet or something of importance that she was gifted and she wants to return it?
What if?
Or share it.
What if? Oh, that's an interesting idea. What if each family has their own set of arms? Not arms. What do you call the thingy where they have like different pictures for their families? Like one's a unicorn and one's a lion.
Yeah,
you know
the coat of arms.
Coat of arms. Yeah, okay, coat of arms. There we go. So each family has their own coat of arms. And what if she has an old like badge or something that actually shows the coat of arms combined?
Yeah.
Because actually the noble families used to be so close. They weren't one family, but they combined a lot of their stuff. That would be interesting.
No, that's great. Yeah.
Throw it.
We did what?
Fox among the chickens. Yeah. And let's say it's I like the idea of it being round instead of shield shaped. And I like the idea of their current coat of arms being shield shaped because it'll change visually there. And let's say, what do we want the emblems for the families to be?
One being a lion.
Okay.
Other, a bear or badger. Which one sounds cooler to you?
A friend of mine just named their dog Badger, so I'm going to lean in that direction. I also have been thinking about rereading the Redwall books again, and badgers are like a thing in that. Also,
badger.
That would be fun. Yeah, so a lion and a badger. Has a relic. Let's call it a token given to esteemed partners, like somebody who would be passing through, so they don't have to like explain themselves at the gates all the time.
They tell you here, and they're like, "Oh, you have the thing."
Yeah.
Cool.
Like a signet ring, but it's a token. My husband really likes like the metal coins you can get that are like have weight to them, and have like
Uh-huh.
interesting pictures on them and stuff. I actually don't know where any of mine are right now, which is terrible. He's probably stolen all of them. Um,
They have a word for them. What?
yeah, what am I thinking of?
I have one too for like Overwatch, but
Yeah,
I can't think of the name. That thing.
that thing. That's what it is.
I'm thinking Pog Mashers now.
Yeah, it's the adult pog. It's definitely adult pogs for sure. It's the weight of them that's so nice. I've got a billion of them. Okay. I'm just taking notes. Combines two families emblems. Lion and badger. I'll just call it a free pass token. Like whosoever bears this does whatever they've done in my name, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a name for that. There is a privilege passage of
passive privilege, something like that. Yeah.
Letter of privilege.
Letter of privilege. There we go. But it's in a token, which makes it more permanent. Which I like the idea of, like, this is really only given to those we can trust indefinitely. All right, I think we've got a decent setup. I think the last thing I'd want to ask is, I think the families wear their colors and emblems quite flamboyantly, and I wonder if the girls would have dressed more discreetly, so it would have been harder for them to know that they're actually from different families. And let's say the villagers dress as neutrally as possible in order to not offend either family. So maybe the girls go out dressed as villagers. They're still dressed nice. You know, the villagers all dress up for this too. But it's impossible to tell which family they're from. Does that sound all right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right, I think we've got a good start. We're about halfway through this fun. Would you like to take a break? I myself would like to take at least a 5-minute break, if that's okay.
Let's take a break then.
Okay.
Let's take a break.
Is 5 or 10 minutes all right? Do you need to take a dog out or anything?
We'll start with 5 if we need a few more.
That'll cool. Do what we do. Okay. Let me find my Be Right Back screen, because I think it has the wrong name on it. Yeah, it does. Okay. Stream. We're going to be back in about 5 minutes, so that's going to be about the half-hour mark after the hour. So my time, it'll be around 11:30 a.m. Thanks. Time change. And I'm going to push... which button? This button. Okay. Stream. We'll be back about about 30 minutes after the hour. Hello, stream. We are back, and I managed to unmute myself before saying that. Huzzah! I've I've been streaming like what I consider hardcore streaming for about a year now, and I'm finally remembering which buttons to push, even when I'm in lots of pain and the brain fog is bad. So that's
One
nice.
time, one time was preparing D&D live. I thought I'm gonna do something fun to prepare my session live. No one in an hour and a half told me it was muted.
Oh,
Afterwards, they're
that's
like, "Oh,
terrible.
we thought you were just showing your work on the screen." I'm like, oh.
That's awful. I was playing through Spirit Fair, and one of the most emotional bits of Spirit Fair, I was muted the whole time, and I was like, son of a. Oof. It's one of the reasons I love it when Tyler's in my streams, because they will not hesitate to be like, y'all muted. Can't hear so and so. Like, it works really well. Okay, so let's see. The scene we set is it is the night of a festival that happens once every 100 years. Shammy has known these ancient families for hundreds of years. She knew the current matriarchs. We said great grandmothers, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Could be older.
Yeah,
Whatever.
could be. Whatever works. She's swinging through for this festival specifically. So in her mind, she's gonna join in on this festival and then move on. Maybe say hi to the families. They won't really know her, but she has that pass, so she should be good. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
So she's looking forward to relaxing. Would she have just come off a particularly arduous adventure, do you think? Or do you think she's sort of like near the end of a rest and getting ready to get back into the fray, so to speak?
Picture her. She is getting ready for some big adventure. Maybe she's worried about where that adventure leads, so she's checking in on things before, or various old what's the word? Loose
Contact.
ends.
Loose ends. Yeah, that's interesting. Oh, she's
And
worried
even
that
if
this will be her final, so she wants to make sure
yeah,
she. Yeah. Shammy is prepping. I refer to those as big bads. I like that piece of the story. Okay, so we've got all of our pieces. Let's see how this plays out. So, would it be all right if Shammy comes in after the festival started? Let's say the festival starts around noon, pre-gaming, if you will. Let's say there are games around the like throw the comet in the moon or whatever. Probably games of chance, like try your luck. Tonight everybody's lucky with the comet passing. Let's there's probably some storytellers, and lots of shooting star merch and things like that, right? Like little pins or patches. I imagine probably like little doll type things where like the shooting star part is the hair and then the face and then a little body coming off. I think that would be adorable.
magic sparklers.
Magic sparklers, yes. So I definitely imagine that I need an artist that I can like sponsor, and like every time I run a game I can be like, will you just draw this, and I just like give them a stipend someday.
So many good moments.
Right. Yeah, so this is what's happening. Let's say that it's really big with all ages, right? Like this is really something the whole family can get into. So there's going to be your kids areas and there's going to be your adult areas. Let's say that there are fine liquors that have been aging. No one has touched. That were put into first put into the aging process under the light of the shooting star, and it's 100. It's been aged for 100 years, and that's like a whole thing that maybe the
Shooting
town is
star
well known
wine.
for. Right? Yeah, that would be good. Let's say there's going to be your usual snake oil types, like, oh, these herbs were gathered under the light of the shooting star 100 years ago. So it's a potent cure for gout or whatever. Does that sound
And
good?
no one questions, like, why aren't you out there picking them now?
Right. Right? Like classic snake oil bullshit. Yeah. think I had a character do something around that once. I can't remember. So, what do you think Shammy would be doing amongst this environment? I kind of, anything I've said or anything else that you'd like to add?
Uh, when she first gets there, make sure it's mid-afternoon since
Hmm.
things have started early.
Yeah.
Maybe it started, and the first place that attracts everyone because is the children's area. She'd be interested in watching just the children be kids, having fun,
Yeah.
just being bemused.
I like the idea of there being like, not like full hamster bubbles, but like things you can put on the kids that make them more protected and like a barricaded area where they can just throw themselves at each other and they're just like
Yeah,
ping pong balls.
well, it's magic. Like a bouncy house
Yeah.
where physics doesn't actually hurt,
Yeah.
so you don't have to worry about stubbing toes or black
Bonk,
eyes.
bonking heads. The
Yep.
number of times kids bonk their heads together with an audible noise that makes your teeth hurt.
I
Just
think I
too
could just
many.
we're like,
Yeah.
no, please stop. And they're like, I'm fine.
Yeah. Yeah. They're like totally fine, and then they run off in a wobbly line, and you're like, that kid's not fine. Bouncing off of trees. Yeah, I'm not good with kids. Okay, so like a like a magic bouncy house. Yeah, that would be a fun area to go by, and I think there's probably musicians set up there too, and maybe they're improv type musicians where they're actually playing to what the kids are doing. Like if the kids are bouncing off, like two factions have formed and they're bouncing off walls at each other. They're like playing like da 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 da. If they're bouncing all over the place, maybe they're like woo doo woo doo woo doo woo.
I
Like
love
stuff
it.
like that.
Uh-huh, very basic bards.
Yeah. Maybe journeyman, right? Like this is a good challenge. If you have to play to both your crowd and you're playing as background to a thing and it suddenly changes, which let's say happens, this is a great way
Especially
to,
kids.
yeah, it's a great way to practice that. I like that idea. There's probably bards that have traveled to this festival specifically for this. This has probably been a tradition that's gone back hundreds of
It's
years.
no, now we're turning it into the Battle of the Bards.
Yeah. I'm not opposed to this at all. Okay, what else do you think she'd check out? Do you think she'd spend a lot of time there?
Uh, as she's walking along, she she's entertained by the town's wizard,
Okay.
who is just doing tricks, not totally unlike Gandalf, like amusing, playing with the kids,
Mm-hmm.
doing cool little uh fake images,
Yeah.
little dragon, little show.
Yeah. Like probably telling a bit of a story and using illusions to help tell that story.
Mhm. And then it's not long before she comes to the beer garden,
Yep.
and she's definitely going to enjoy a drink here. The beer garden has a pretty good view of the area.
I think it's one of the that it's set up as one of the primary viewing areas, right? Like if you want to kick back comfortable, drinking a beer is the and some even say that's good luck. That's the place to do it, right? Like there's a couple of places you can pick up, you know, food and whatnot, food and drink and whatnot. But this is a place where you're gonna rest for a while.
Yes.
Now, in my world and some of the villages, and this is one of them, alcohol doesn't have an age, right? Like you're taught to respect alcohol at a very young age, and so you get like watered down wine at special occasions and things like that. So you'll see younglings approaching adulthood, and they're sort of strutting around. I am adult enough to have a full beer, not fall over, and that kind of thing.
I love it.
And you're seeing some graybeards, you're seeing some oldsters sitting in a corner. Back in my day, you probably have a couple people that were there for the last comet. They were 3, but they remember it. That kind of thing.
Of course, like it was yesterday.
They're holding court. The matriarchs are probably going to be here. They've probably got their comfy booths like on opposite ends of the beer garden. So I think that's the first introduction you have to the split. Right? I don't think you've been... Yeah, you said you haven't been here for thousands of years... Or thousands, Jesus. Hundreds of years. And so I think you're setting up at a nice comfy table And I think, let's say this town is known for these collapsible chairs that you can kind of half lounge in, right? Because you want to be able to look up. Like they're known for
Dream
this,
loungers.
right? Doesn't that sound great?
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So you're settling into one of those, and there's plenty. Like this is a well-known thing. People will prepare, people will make these kinds of chairs, these special tables, and stuff for this occasion, and then sell them to people the next day, like at like a commemorative chair thing, things like that. So she's settling in. She's got a particularly good brew that she remembers. What kind of beer is Shammy into, do you think?
She's going to be drinking uh she likes a very dark ale.
Yeah.
Very dark. She likes that taste of malty taste.
Yeah. Oh God, I
I
miss
think
dark
I
beers.
actually now I think I'm just basically playing me. Uh
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. We'll get
Not at
into tea
all.
drinking later. Yeah. I used to. I'm not allowed to drink beer anymore because it does weird things to my insides. But dark beers were my favorite. Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
Okay. So she's got a good brew, maybe two, because she's gonna be here for a bit. She's got a snack. What do you think she'd be snacking on? Would she be splurging on some fried food, or is she sticking to salads? What do we got here?
Pretzels.
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 Ooh, hot fare
Yeah.
pretzels. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like way too bad for you, but you don't care.
Well, and they soak up the alcohol, something fierce, so they're perfect fare food.
Uh-huh.
Um,
The extra salt when you get a bite, it has like
oh,
so many of those, the extra big
so
salt
good.
crystals.
And like that
You're like,
mustard that you can for some reason only get at fairs with the with
what is
the.
up with that?
I have no idea. I would buy gallons of that. I love that mustard. Um, uh, yeah. Okay, so she's all set up, and she's. Do we think Shammy likes to people watch? Like that's part of the enjoyment
Oh,
here.
I was
Is
thinking she's a brooder. She's a
yeah.
brooder. She's people watching and enjoying these things.
Okay, so I
Uh,
think that's where she would see. Um, she would note a booth with very prominent lion um, imagery, right? Like there's a lion in the center and it's raised above, and there's a canopy with a special viewing hole through the top, which by the way is stupid. It's open sky's better, but whatever. Um, and like the colors of the house, and like there's really comfy like couches that you can lay down fully on, and it's coming out like a star so that the people's heads all can see through this dumb hole. So that's the first thing she sees. What do you think her reaction to that would be?
she's sitting here, seeing that, moving all around, checking that out. She's going to go to the, huh, and then
She gonna look
the
around?
camera looks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the camera looks the other side,
And there she
because you can
sees.
tell like the
Yeah.
way it's showing. It's like it's technically for them, but it's trying to taunt someone over there.
Right. The positioning, right? Like it's just
Hmm.
slightly skewed to what. So you go over there. Now you see a booth. So that we'll say the lion family is a little bit more gaudy, right? Whereas which because they've got those colors, right? And let's say the badger family goes for sort of strength elegance, like the things that they build will last forever, but there's like artistry to that, right? Like the way, like they're very well known for their woodworking and combining stone with wood kind of thing. So their booth is sort of a testament to that. Whereas the lion side, let's say they're like cloth, they're more into cloth, and that's why that there's that bright color. So the badger family booth is more subtle, right? So they're also raised up. Their stage is very clearly constructed in a way that is not temporary. Like it can come apart and be, like you can tell, and the way that the wood has been fashioned, the way that it's been assembled, you can see the outline of a stylized badger just in the way the platform's been assembled, and it's just like damn, you know. And you're seeing a lot of like blacks and whites for colors over there, whereas you're seeing like reds and golds on the other side, maybe like a deep green as well. Yes. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like it. Uh-huh.
So she sees both families' booths very distinctly set aside, and I think she would also note. Let me know if this is right, but I think she'd note the villagers' like neutrality, right? Like she'd
Oh yeah,
see
like no one else.
she'd start, like, there isn't a villagers platform. I think and there's probably a mayor, right? And that is not an, I think she'd start to see at this point how some of the people walking around in the beer garden have badges of either a badger or a lion, and they're definitely keeping to their sides of the beer garden, and the villagers can kind of go wherever, right? But there are people that have distinctly no badge. Does that sound right?
Yeah, like the one with the badges, they it's not like are not allowed to. They just know they don't.
Right.
It's just not what we do.
There's like an invisible line,
Mhm.
right? And you probably see some burly, young men types kind of like toe the line and like jostle each other and then get pulled apart by their buddies, kind of thing. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Can't do that in front of the honorables, that kind of thing.
Right.
Now, I wonder if Shammy would be tempted to head back out into the fair and see if there's the same division that she didn't quite catch on the way in. Because I don't know that the girls would meet here under the eyes of their family. Or do you think they would meet here under the eyes of their family and their families see it happening and are like, no?
No, it's a secret. It's a location they think is away from prying eyes. However, they missed something.
Yeah.
Dun dun dun.
So, so do you think Shammy would be the one to catch them, or do you think Shammy would be here in comfort and somebody drags the girls into the beer garden in front of the families and shouts about it, and that's how she finds out?
I think it's after a bit. Shammy goes back to the shopping area.
Okay.
And as she's browsing, maybe that's the right word.
What did you
say? As a writer, I said carousing and then browsing.
That's different. Browsing.
Okay.
Yeah, carousing
browsing.
is like,
okay.
Yeah, we're having a great time.
Oh, okay, yeah. As a writer, I you would think I would know more much gooder words.
Words hard better. Yes. No.
Word. Browsing, and then these two young women go giggling by, and she's like, huh. And then a moment later,
she recognizes like that's young love right there, like it's sweet, in a very sickening kind of way. Like they're going to be obnoxious for the next year or so. That fight's going to be terrible, if they ever break up, all of those thoughts.
And as she's thinking that, as they run by, a moment later, you hear, "Let me go."
Okay. And what's happening there, do you think?
Turns around to see one of the badger brutes, as it were, has spotted the young girl from their family.
Right.
Without badges. And this person recognizes both parties, both girls.
Oh yeah, I don't think anybody could really sneak around. I think the families know each other all by sight, and it's really the badges that like shout that, and that's if they're not wearing the badges, then it's a second look, but you definitely recognize them. Okay, so he's gonna, maybe as they're running by, he'll have grabbed the arm of the badger girl. Now they need names.
Yep.
We're gonna call the badger girl Slep, and we're gonna call the lion girl Tenhem.
Tenhem, got it. Slep and Tenhem.
Okay, so the badger brute grabs Slep, and she's like, "Let me go," because probably what you might not have seen is him being like, "What are you?" No, actually, yeah. So you turn around at the "let me go," and the badger brute, you're gonna see him very clearly, like there's shock, and you see the shock turn to anger, and when he demands like, "What are you doing?" And Slep is gonna be like, "It's none of your business." She's trying to jerk her arm out of, and let's say Slep's a slip of a thing, right? And was just like, and because she doesn't want to hurt him. I think she probably could, but this is not about that. And I think she'll get her arm free and bump into Tenham, who's kind of looking around like, this was not part of the plan. And then I think people with badges start to push through the crowds, and you, with all of your experience, are seeing a fight brewing. Like, if those two groups can form, there's going to be fists. Would you do anything about it?
Uh, seeing what would be an injustice to her oaths, she's going to step in.
What I think is...
Hey.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, seems to be the trouble here.
What I think is interesting about this fight is that there was an excuse, right? Like, 2 questions were asked, no explanations were given, everybody's gonna start throwing fists. I find that kind of interesting because when you say what seems to be happening, no one can really answer, right? Like, the girls are gonna be like, what? And the dude's gonna be like, she's not, they're not wearing their badges. And, like, it's a flimsy excuse even to them. And at this point, the groups have sort of formed up, but there's less violence in the air because they're seeing somebody, like, step in and call question. What do you do next?
Shammy is going to be seeing no one's answering.
Mm-hmm.
And that,
there's probably some guys,
crowd.
like further back in the groups that are, like,
snapping,
punching their fists into hands, being like, I'm gonna get you. And on the other side, they're like, oh yeah, come at me. Like, rumbling like that in the backs.
Trying to de-escalate things. Let her go. And let's talk this out.
So he lets her go, and he's like, who are you to be telling my family what to do?
She grabbed this thing. She has this amulet. And she stands a little prouder, showing her regalia.
Mm-hmm.
She's her battle dress.
Very striking character, yeah.
And she stands tall now. Like basically, she's probably an elf. She probably.
Yeah, how tall is she? Is she like a head taller than these folk when she really sort of stands up straight?
Actually, she's probably not a head taller than them, but her presence makes it feel like she is. She's probably
like
5'4", 5'5".
Oh, great! So she's bitty, but she's not. Yeah, like it.
Right. And no, let's make her 5'8".
5'8".
But still, she is.
She's imposing.
Close to toe to toe. Imposing, yeah.
Yeah,
she's making space with her presence.
Yeah, she's not a willow. She's got presence. And she knows how to take up space in a way that is imposing. I like that idea.
She's trying to be intimidating to get them to stand down.
Okay, can you roll me an intimidate? Don't do a lot of rolling in brunches, but this sounds good.
You got 12.
I like that. I think that's gonna work to, like, pause this, but it's not gonna make them stand down fully. So I think what I will introduce here is that fictional mare I said probably existed. So a rather short, out of breath young man runs up and is like, hold on. Because what he sees from the distance is these two families starting to square off again. And I think as the mayor of the village that is kind of torn between them, he's probably got some experience with this, right? And so he comes up and sort of puts his hand on your arm, but doesn't leave it there. Just sort of like, hey, so we kind of let them do their thing. So the families handle their own justice. And so he's sort of tried to explain, like, you don't need to get involved. It's kind of messy. Just... we have, you can see behind him, like, all of the vendors are, like, quick. They all have their booths set up in a way where they can quick haul out their things and step back. And that's when you realize, like, the stalls are, do we want them to be sturdier? So, like, if a fight breaks out, things don't get broken? Or do we want them to be built to just fall apart because that's going to happen anyway.
Oh, they're gonna fall apart because it's a once
Got it.
100 years. Like,
Yeah, okay.
why build?
Right, why build? So you're seeing all of the vendors in the area do that, and vendors further away being like, oh, that's happening? Uh-huh. And so all of the vendors in this area are clearing out as the mayor is explaining, like, so we just kind of, and the families are gearing up again, right? Because they're like, yeah, we do justice, blah, 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 blah. And I think the girls are going to try and melt out of the way
Mhm.
because this isn't about them anymore. The families are just going to fight. And I think you see them go. Are you going to let them go?
She's going to let them go, but definitely eyeing where they are heading. She's not going to let them go far
I think they're going to try and
if she can't help it.
yeah, I think there's definitely a direction they could go that would be taking them down off the mountain, and I don't think they do that. I think they slip off like behind some of the stalls and head sort of back towards the beer garden where there's some deeper shadows. So they're still going to be up here. I think
Okay.
you'd feel fairly confident about finding them because you're familiar with this area.
And hearing the mayor talk about, we let them do their own things. Like, she's gonna look at him with that imposing look, like, you do what now? And then she looks around, seeing all this. What has happened to this place?
The mayor looks confused, like you don't like very much like you don't know what's happening here. Like everybody knows about this, and so he's still trying to get you to kind of like he says like just let them fight. No, I mean just handle their own justice. Like he's and he's kind of like come with me and I'll explain it. Like get out. He's trying to get you out of the danger zone here. Like you're very imposing and whatnot, but I think all of the villagers like primary goal when the families clash is to get everybody out of harm's way.
All right. She's going to be looking like she wants to do something more, but she realized she is very outnumbered,
Mm-hmm.
even for her abilities,
Mm-hmm.
and she'll go with the mayor.
So he, as you like, you turn and just get out of range of maybe a wild haymaker, right? It just kind of like whizzes past your head, and the fight looks like it's been going on for a while, right? Like all of a sudden. And the mayor is going to be like, okay, come with me. And he's going to lead you off to a vendor who has evacuated, and he'll stop there and be like, all right, let me explain. Okay, let me make a note. I think he'll say, whew, thanks. Sometimes it can be hard to make that moment where everybody can get out of the way. I really appreciate you playing dumb about what was going on, so that as a stranger to this town, so that I could get everybody out. I really appreciate that. So he's basically going to be like, thanks for pretending you don't know about this, so that I could get everybody out.
Uh, Pretending. No, really. What has happened to this town? What has happened to this town?
He looks really confused, and he's got like this handkerchief he keeps wiping his forehead with. So he does that again, and he's like trying to slick back hair and things, and he tugs his shirt a lot. These are all nervous gestures, and he's like, I just. My apologies. You must be from very far away. The feud in this town is known for hundreds of miles around us. We actually have to go to great lengths to get traders to come merchants to come here, because a lot of them don't think it's worth the damage from this sort of thing. We've actually built our entire village around the idea that these families feud, and what will happen will happen. And we very carefully don't take sides, and that's why I pulled you out. It looked like you were about to try and get involved, and that never goes well.
The sheer confusion and befuddlement.
Yeah.
Like, you do what? She looks at him with the "you've got to be kidding me" eyes.
And he starts to
And
flush, like he's like, well, we've been doing it this way for generations, and who are you to come in and
Mhm.
like he's a little embarrassed. Like he knows it's stupid, right? Like these families
um,
brawl over stupid things, and they're proud of themselves for it, and they destroy buildings, and like he is the mayor is just like, it's gonna happen. Like, that's not a great stance. He knows it.
uh, she'll reach into her bag and take out the amulet. What would you say? What was it?
Yeah, we'll call it an amulet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And show the symbols of the two families, the coat of arms, basically as one, and be like, things have changed.
He takes this and he's like, oh my god, that's both of the families on one. And he flips it over and like, he kind of like he'd almost bite it to see, the authenticity. And he gives it back to you and he's like, my great grandfather used to talk about the families being united and we just thought he was a crazy old coot. I can't sorry, I didn't want to use that phrase actually. I've been trying to get rid of phrases that I don't know the etymology of because I don't want to, use them.
I understand.
We just thought he was a, like he was confused, like sometimes people will get to an age where they just can't tell, fact from fiction. We just thought he was, just old. So there's something to this. Were you there when the families were not feuding? That would have been hundreds of years ago.
Mm-hmm. Taking back the amulet and storing it away. Never ask a woman how old she is, but also I was there.
And he's gonna be like, oh god, he's young enough that he's just like, I stepped in, yeah.
And she's totally like playing into it, like, no, I'm just kidding you. It's okay. I was here. Let's just say your great grandfather, I'm guessing, perhaps.
And he's
yeah, things were different then. Tell me, who were those two girls?
He says, that was so you'll know there's the Badger family and the Lion family, and because I'm bad at names, that's literally going to be their surnames. I've decided. And he's going to say the girl that the guy grabbed, that was Slep. She's from the Badger family. The other one is from the Lion family. Her name was Tenem. I've never seen them together before. That was quite unusual. The families definitely keep to themselves. There's no mingling there. This, in fact, is the only time that the families come together at the same festival, and it's always explosive. Usually, we run festivals, and he starts to explain, like, their whole system for avoiding, like, we tell the Badger family the festival's on this day, and we tell the Lion family the festival's on this day, and because they never talk to each other, they never figured this out. Like, he starts to explain like all of that.
It's like, well, so they don't ever mingle, huh? And she has this knowing smirk.
Right, like somebody's doing something, yeah. And he's like, no, they really keep to themselves. It's they've got different sides of town. There's like an invisible line. We gently guide them out of the wrong areas. Like, oh, look at this over here, my lord. He explains like their whole system.
Shammy is just like, nodding, taking this all in, and like, I think I see what's going on here. She's looking around, not quite looking at him anymore. Like, I need to find those two girls.
Right. I think we've got a babbler on our hands, so I think Shammy can just kind of cut him off, like, thanks very much, bro. I'm gonna go do my thing, and he'll just be like, yep, sure. Like he's used to being kind of walked all over by these families.
Yep. You're trying what you can with a very impossible situation.
Yes.
If I need any more, I'll find you.
Oh, yes, I will be. And he explains where you can find him, which is a very, like, low-key, out of the line of fire, like, gathering for, people, the mayor and his people.
All right.
And then he'll let you go off. He'll bustle off to that area.
Now, to find those girls.
All right, roll me. I don't care. An investigate. I don't know. An investigation check. Let's use your level 5 character sheet.
Okay.
No, let's have it be a perception check because you're going to be assessing the crowd, where the shadows are, where people are fleeing to or running to. You're going to be assessing all of that together. So I think I can justify a perception check there. Does that sound all right?
All right. Yeah, totally works. 14.
Okay. So the mayor led you away from the fight and towards the beer garden. You're seeing a lot of the fleeing people sort of going actually up to the beer garden. I think that's technically neutral territory because the families sit there, and
Yeah.
one thing they don't approve of is fights in public. They don't approve of the fights in public. Right, so as long as they don't see it, kind of thing. And then there's people from those families streaming down to the fight, so it is tearing up property and stuff. The villagers actually have really clever ways of putting their wares on their laps kind of thing, so they're still able to get some trade done.
Just I love it.
And then there's gonna be the dark shadows behind, in between the vendors, because some of them spread out. The kids stuff is way down at the other end of the shopping area, so that they're definitely kept away from this kind of nonsense. Because the beer garden can get rowdy and stuff, and it's easier.
The bards get louder.
Right. Yeah, they're desperately playing louder. So I think you identify quiet spots. Probably over by the kids stuff. That's the furthest away any of the adults are going to be. It's usually kids, and then whichever aunt, grandma, uncle, or grandpa was put in charge of that gaggle for, you drew the short straw. But they're all ignoring everything and watching the fight probably.
Uh-huh.
I think there's probably I think there are some really ancient trees. And I think there's a particularly big one around where they set up the kid stuff because it has this gorgeous canopy. So it's a lovely backdrop.
It's like the lover's tree when
right.
It's not the festival.
Right. I think nobody comes here during the festival because of how crowded it is, which actually makes it a pretty decent spot to sneak off to if you're desperate. You'd have to climb. Usually the best climbing spots are in the front of the tree, which is very well lit from the kids' stuff. So you actually have to take the more dangerous route up the back, and you have to get really high up in the canopy to be in full shadow, and you have to be very careful to get up there.
Shammy, with her prowess, is not going to have a problem wanting to try this to get up there.
You've got a decent athletics. I think that would be good for rolling for this.
Up there.
Yeah.
It's going through there, swinging from tree to tree, climbing, getting to where she needs to be through the mud, through the trees.
Right. Yeah.
Through the hills.
Yep. Because she's got to take a circuitous route, probably the same route the girls took.
And after a while, then she gets to the clearing. Of the lover's tree. And does she see them?
I think she would have to I think she would have to get up into the tree to really identify them. I think it's okay. Important that they can't be seen by chance from the ground.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then when she's getting there, she will knowing that she has to try to climb it.
Yeah. So roll me an athletics check.
All right. Athletics would be a 16.
Yeah, that's good. So I think she'll make it up into the. I think the one of the things that makes this a good secret tree is you have to get about above head height before the branches start. So I think she'll get to that point. She'll get up maybe a third into the tree cover before she hears something. And then kind of zeroes in on that and moves in that direction. And what she finds is the two girls who have seen her coming and have tried to hide themselves. And they do a terrible job. They've actually done a decent job of getting her unseen clearly. And so you are faced with two young women who look embarrassed and defiant all at the same time.
She definitely does not approach any closer. Um, and she smirks again. Like, it's okay. It's okay. Uh, I'm just glad you're safe.
Are you gonna turn us into our families? That's Tenham. She's I think she's gonna be the fiercer of the two. She's really embodying the lion side of her family.
Nah, nah. In fact, I'm gonna try to help you too.
And Slep's gonna be like, "How in the world would you help us?" And the Badger side, I think, is gonna pride themselves on wits and cleverness. And for somebody from that family to not see a way through this, like that's how desperate they are.
Let me show you something. She reaches into her pocket, and she'll toss the amulet towards them.
Tenham will catch it, and they'll look at it together, and they will look incredulous, like, "Where did you get this? What manner of joke is this?" You know, they don't believe it's real. They don't believe, like, there's no way.
She'll put her hand out, like waiting for it to be
He'll
given
or
back.
she'll toss it back, like, I, yeah, take it. You know, like I don't. This is ridiculous.
Uh, tell me, what are your families fighting over?
The girls look at each other, and Tenham is like resigned, and Slep is like, "I have a theory." And Tenham's like, "Yeah, okay." And Slep is like, "So no one really knows. Our grandmamas will not speak of it, and in fact, it happened many generations ago. But I believe," and she starts to tell you this ridiculous story of intrigue, of like an assassin
Right.
sent from one family to the other to murder the eldest son, you know, or eldest daughter, you know, or eldest child, and it was like and in a way that uh, no in no man with honor would ever blah blah blah. Like it's like very romantic, very young girl daydreamy type thing. And Tenham sort of like lets her finish, and then is like, "No one really knows. Apparently, the matriarchs of our families will pass it down when as they're stepping down. But no one outside of our leader would know that."
You two are the kids, right?
They kind of look at each other and they say, "We are, yes, we are each the eldest of our families. We stand to inherit eventually."
All right. I'm gonna try to make this right. Um, Maybe I can help you out. I mean, why would I climb up this dress in this ridiculous or why would I climb up this tree in this ridiculous battle dress if I didn't think I could help?
Slep is like, "That is a very fine dress," and Tenham is like, "That
Thanks.
looks like it would protect you hugely. I would love to copy, you know." Like I think the women in this town would go out for fighting and stuff, so they both respect what you've got on.
It's like, look, it didn't even get dirty. I follow. No, it's just
Yeah.
me.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
um, so you really don't know what your families are. That's that story about the whole intrigue and this. Yeah, no.
Slep
It's
looks
actually.
disappointed.
Sorry, but I was there.
Oh, they both are immediately interested. Like, really? You know, like they're
And
like, "You don't look ancient, really?"
you don't like a day over 400.
Right?
Um, she'll go on to tell the story of how she helped the two families a couple hundred years ago, back when they were unified. And um, that's right. However, we got to figure out how she knows about it was fought over a dress.
I think she was probably in that town. I think this was in the early days where the town was establishing itself, and let's say there were bandits in the area, and you were on hand to help clear that out so this town could flourish, and you did a great job, and they threw a ball, and it was in honor of the family's oldest girls, right? Like and it was like half celebration for the bandits being kicked out and half showing off because they're establishing this town, right? Like it's a show of unity. So I think you're there at that gathering, you know, with that history when the girls show up in the same dress and this all starts.
Yeah. like gets there, and then the ceremony was more or less quote unquote ruined, but they
Right.
still finish it, and that's how she gets the amulet from that day on.
Right.
And she'll reshare this story.
Right, because the girls start bickering and you see what is a great unity collapsing. You get involved. I have no idea how you'd actually resolve that, but let's pretend you did. The parents were so appreciative because this unity is fragile and it always will be, right? Two families coming together, but they have hopes that the families will combine over time. So that's why you get that amulet of awesomeness.
And then after leaving, at some point, something triggered over the same thing of the fight.
Yeah, I think
Resumed
that's your
after
theory.
leaving.
Like you must not
Yeah.
have been like a girl's, a young woman's pride knows no bounds. So that must have been what rekindled after you left.
And uh basically the plan would be to and the idea when retelling this story is she's trying to be like the ridiculous nature of
Yeah,
what started it all.
I think Slep is like, I want all of the details. I think she's probably the storyteller of the two, and Tenem is like, that's stupid. Like that's the
Yeah.
stupidest thing I've ever heard, and I don't think she fully believes that. But at the same time, she's like thinking about her grandma and her great grandma and is like, no, that yeah, that tracks, like, but that's stupid.
Do you think that if finding out a story was utterly ridiculous, that it might at least help ease the tensions? Or will he just not care?
Tenem is gonna say, I'm not sure my grandma will care. She this is her life. This feud is everything to her. And Slep is gonna say, I think my grandmother would be willing to consider this, but we're talking about generations of hate. I have no idea how you'd go about solving that problem.
Hmm. Maybe a ridiculous problem needs a ridiculous solution.
And they're
I.
interested. Like, what? Yeah, okay, I'm hearing you.
Mm-hmm. What if we recreate that night hundreds of years ago? You both show up to the viewing tonight wearing the same dress.
Okay. And they say, I think if we start a fight like that, it'll cross that line of not fighting in front of our matriarchs and it'll become a riot. Are you thinking that we would sort of start a cat fight and then you would step in like
Oh,
in ancient times to sort of shame our families through us of like, really, you're gonna fight about this, and kind of get them to be like,
I
no. Is that what
I
you're
think we
thinking?
all. You're close. I think we were all just going to laugh at the ridiculous nature of wouldn't that be ridiculous if we fought over this?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and then uh, I'm still spitballing here, like throwing spaghetti against the wall, see what
Mm-hmm.
sticks, kind of
Yeah, yeah.
brainstorming here. But show them that this feud is ridiculous. Uh, then it's also going to be one elf's word against generations of stories.
And Slep says, there are some archives I could dig into. We might be able to find some evidence that would support this. And that
Maybe
might be
this will be.
helpful.
Maybe this amulet would be enough.
She says
It's proof.
that does have both families' actual stamps on it. So that would be, like, on the back, there's, like, stamps of authenticity besides the emblem on the front. And she says that's going to go a long way, yeah. So, Sabriel, we're getting close to time, actually. I don't know if we're going to resolve this today. I think this is a decent place to pause where the girls and Shammy are trying to come up with a solution. I like the idea that they're really getting into this conversation. Is that okay if we pause here?
I think having like a montage of
Yeah.
planning is perfect. I think it's a good pausing point.
Perfect. Okay. I really like this because this could go anywhere, and maybe we'll pick this up in a future brunches and see how we actually resolve this. That could be very
Oh,
interesting too.
this needs resolution in
We need
some
okay,
way.
yeah, we'll schedule another one of these then.
In some way, in some fashion, I would love to help
Yeah,
fashion that together.
I really like that because the next time we do this can really be a okay, let's look at the family dynamics. What could happen? And maybe you and I can explore that as fellow GMs of like, what do you do when your players want this and it's not the resolution you'd think of? How would you set that up? What if your players are too eager to do exactly what you're thinking that the resolution should be? How do you handle that? What do you do if no one can agree on what the resolution would be? How do you solve that? Maybe we could do a little bit of that if you're willing, and then we can
Yeah.
play through the actual whatever actual resolution we decide on. I think that would be fun.
I think that would be amazing and fun. I would love
Great.
that.
Let me just make a note that we're gonna do that. Play through how to handle players. Yeah, I really like this. This was fun. I like the dynamics we set up. I think that's very interesting. I like the imagery. You've got such a distinct character.
Thank you.
I love that festival. That's such a good idea. I can do a lot with that. And then too eager. Got it. Then play through resolution. Because I don't know when we're going to meet up again. And I have noticed if I don't play for months, and I, if I ask a group, like we didn't play for a while. In my campaigns, and so I started it back up. Like, what do y'all remember? And if you ask one person what they remember, unless they took beautiful notes, no, that's not going to work. And so it works better in a group. So when it's just one-on-one, I try to take very solid notes at the end if we're going to try and play again.
We also have the benefit of video.
It's true, but I don't watch these. I don't edit them.
That requires. I don't
watch
watch a
them.
single thing I make. What?
No, same.
I could if I need to.
Oh yeah.
I could if I need
we
to.
absolutely had to. We can refer back to a transcript, I suppose. But, yeah. So I think that's a good pause point. What did you think? Was this interesting? What would you do different? Yeah.
So much. I had so much fun because I have done one-on-ones with my players, but I've always been the DM.
Right.
And so to be the player is a nice, interesting twist to let me see it.
Yep.
From the other end.
Yeah.
I think
I might ask you to reverse this with me sometime because I've wanted a GM who has experience with this to help me flesh out some of my character stuff. So yeah.
I would love to do that with you.
I'm glad you enjoyed this.
Yeah. One of my suggestions for any GM or DM is if you can find a way to do a one-on-one session.
Yeah.
Absolutely do it. Like, my most recent session was just 1 week ago. I had a lore dump for the party, but there was no good way to share that in session without boring half the people.
Yeah.
Because they would have to watch this whole thing play out.
Right.
So the player was going to talk to a reporter. And so we just played that whole scene where I just figured it would take 5 to 20 minutes. We were there for like 2 hours talking.
Yikes.
But it went by so quickly.
Yeah.
And was able to share so much more. And so then when the party met up again in the actual session, she was able to retell things in her character's point of view.
Right.
All the stuff she learned and also narrow it down to what she thought was important, which also gives me a clue what she thinks is important.
Right. Yes, there's a lot of levels there. I think it's very important I agree with you, to try and do a one-on-one. Sometimes that's not the best thing to do in a group. If you've got the play, like my last Treasure Tuesdays was basically about this character Marthala hunting priests, and it's pretty much what we did that session, and everybody was really on board, but you want to be careful with that. So sometimes doing those one-on-ones separately can be helpful. Sometimes doing them with the group can be helpful too, because they can see it play out, then they can see what the character brings back, and that can be, if you've got a group that can metagame, that can be kind of interesting too.
Totally. One-on-ones. I'm a very big proponent of these.
Yeah.
That's what I
They're a
love.
lot of fun. I really love doing them with people I don't game with because I learn a lot. I get some new ideas, you know, and I really love that the lore of Azinlia has this many people engaged on it. Like, I'm over 20 people at this point that have put a
Awesome.
stamp on Azinlia, which I think is wonderful. I love the idea of this happening really far in the past and one of my campaigns running across this village. And has the feud resolved?
There
Right?
you
Is
go.
there a new problem? You know, like maybe they've gotten too cozy and they want to separate, you know? Like there's all kinds of things I can do with this. And I just
Uh,
love the idea of this festival. I want it to spread somehow. I think it'll be fun.
I, the once every 100-year festival over a shooting star,
Right?
or an asteroid, or meteor, whatever.
Classic. Yeah, right? Like,
Uh
yeah, you could do so much with that.
huh.
All right.
So
Well,
cool.
how about we do the bit where I'd like to invite you to share with stream what you might be doing over the next week or couple weeks. Is there anything that our streamers could come find you? Is there a game that you stream? Is there a panel you're going to be on? Is there something you're going to be doing that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I don't have anything on the docket right now, for the next few weeks, but I have been playing with my streaming setup a bit more to see if I can get it up. So stay tuned to my socials,
Great.
for that. If I do enjoy getting it to work or getting it to work, whatever like that.
Yeah.
But
And your
with all
Twitter.
those caveats,
Your
my Twitter, uh, it is at Sabreality, but if you go to sabriel.gay, it will bring you right to my Twitter feed.
and Sabriel, correct?
Sabrie. Yep, correct.
So I'll put
Can't believe I had
both
to
of
sit here and
those.
think about how to spell it. Also,
Yeah.
my website is sabriel.me, which goes to all my things.
Perfect. So
But
I've
Twitter
dropped.
is where I'm basically at.
Yeah, I use Twitter a lot. I'd be really interested to see your streaming, any streaming setup that you do. I think that would be fun. If you
Look
have
at
any
that. I play
questions,
with it.
I've been doing this for
I
a
will
year.
totally reach
I can
out.
give you some
I've done
ideas.
it here and
Yeah.
I've done it here and there, but never consistently.
Yep.
I usually find games that are too take too much for my system to do streaming and the game, and then I'm like, oh, why
Yep.
did I bother?
Yep.
I need to just downscale
We,
it. Play older games.
when I started streaming hardcore, I rebuilt my machine maybe 6 or 7 months ago because it was struggle busing to both run like Overwatch and stream it, you know,
Oh man.
and have several video feeds. And it was like, I don't want to do this, so we upgraded the
I
damn
feel the
thing,
pain.
right?
Feel the
Yeah,
pain.
yeah. My
But
husband does mini painting, so he's got several cameras set up, and his machine doesn't like that either. So
oh.
gets tricky, but it can be done.
So in short, sabriel.gay. You'll bring you to me. And just stay
Perfect.
tuned to what I do. I talk about gay stuff a lot. I'm not gonna lie. Shipping, Korosami, Overwatch, video games.
All of,
I have to share my D&D tips or thoughts too.
yeah, yeah. All of those topics are wonderful, and I highly recommend giving Sabriel a follow on at least Twitter. That's definitely a good place. I've found a lot of good stuff there. Okay, so for me, I do not have another brunches guest lined up, so I'll ping all of my humans and see who wants to get in on this again. I believe Treasure Tuesday will be going live on Tuesday, and Marthalla's going to have to explain herself, and we'll find out whether Relic knows she lied about stuff, so tune in for that. That'll be fun. And then Broken Bane should be streaming next Saturday, and they went into the caverns, and I ended the last episode with somebody starting to be attacked. So there's a cliffhanger there as well, so tune in for both of those. And if somebody does want to involve themselves in brunches, shoot me a DM on Twitter. That is where I organize this kind of thing. And other than that, I think we're good, and I'm ready to say bye, Stream. How about you? You good?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. Have a wonderful week, Stream. Bye.